A wooden chopping block or a butcher block makes a fantastic feature in any home or kitchen. Now there are a few different methods to making these and it can be quite expensive with all the tools and equipment. However, today I'm going to keep it super simple so that you at home can actually give it a go and make this yourself. Keeping it simple in this one today, we're just going to make this little guy here, which is ideal for fruit and veg chopping in the kitchen. It's the same principle no matter what size that you make. As for the timber, you need to use hardwood for a chopping board. I'm using 32 by 32 plain all round Meranti timber. Going to be using some wood glue in between the mating surfaces, and I'm going to be joining each piece together with some wood screws. I've got some 4.5 by 40 mil long screws. We've got some wood filler which is going to seal up those last holes on the edge of the board. As for the tools, a scraper to use for the wood filler, a screw pilot to countersink the holes that I'm going to be drilling into the timber, a cordless drill, and a sander. As for the sanding pads, I've got an 80 grit, a 120 and a 240 grit for that finishing of the board. Now when it comes to selecting your timber from the shelf at Builders, I like to just mix it up a little bit, use a few different pieces, and that way you get so much different color and richness coming out from the grain structure, even though it's the same type of timber. You'll see here, same type of timber, but just different pieces, and it ends up getting all those different colors, those different shades, and I really think it enhances the final look of the cutting board. We've got our 6 pieces all cut to size. I went to 295 long for each piece. And the first thing I'm going to do is, as I mentioned earlier, look at the grain structure and mix them up to the best way I like. I can see straight away, I can see some different colors coming through here. Once you're happy with that, this is important, mark it. So bring a line down the top. I know that's my top section, and then number each piece, because this is the order that you want to assemble them in. Now remember, I'm only going for 6 pieces. You can add on more, it's entirely up to you. The next step is to join each piece together. So we're going to join piece number 2 to number 1. Then we're going to join piece number 3 to number 2, 4, 5, and 6. Put number 1 to the side, and the remainder pieces, these are the ones which we're going to be drilling through. So let's just flip that over now so we know exactly which side we're going to be drilling through. And then now we can quickly mark exactly where we want to drill. Not too close to the edge, otherwise it is going to burst out. So we go in around about 25 millimeters. And you can see I'm just offsetting it slightly so each screw is not going to be going into the back of the other one. Now I'm going to use my screw pilot, drill all the way through, and that's going to make my clearance hole for the screw and countersink that screw head as well so that the next piece doesn't butt up against that screw head. Before you start drilling that, please make sure you use a piece of scrap board. That way you're not going to drill into your table or your bench or your kitchen counter at home. Now remember, countersink on the top surface and make sure that drill has popped out the other side. Carry on through each one of your X's until we're finished. Okay, so there's all my pieces. I've got the holes come through all on the other side, which is perfect. Now it's time for me to apply my wood glue back onto my scrap piece because this is quite messy. And take each one of your pieces, remember keeping number 1 at the beginning. Let's just fold that down, fold that down, fold that down, fold that down, and then we can apply wood glue on all of these surfaces. So how much glue to apply? Well, the answer is not too much and not too little. Make sure you've got a good even coating on all of the surfaces. You don't want any pockets, any empty gaps, because that can actually show through and you're going to have these gaps on your board later on down the line. Now make sure you have a rag handy because it's going to get messy. Good old-fashioned glue spreader. Get right the way up to the edge, and especially on the sides here, right to the edge, to make sure you don't have any dry patches. Number 1's our first piece. Remember, we want piece number 2 going into number 1. That glued surface is going straight in, lining up. And you're going to drive that screw all the way into the next piece. And straight away you'll see the glue starting to squeeze out there. Okay, first 2 pieces done. Same process. There's the 3, line it up. And you're just going to keep going with every single piece until you get to the end. Now you can see why you need to slightly stagger your screws so the previous screw isn't in the way of the next screw as it drives in. Okay, that's the last screw that's gone in. All I need to do now is pop in some wood filler to fill those last holes. Now choose a wood filler that matches your timber. I've chosen the Meranti wood filler to match my Meranti timber that I'm using. That's your board complete. Okay, you'll see there's plenty of glue on both sides. Don't worry about that. I prefer not to wipe that off. I rather actually let that to dry as it is. That way if there's any shrinkage in the glue, it actually sucks back into the timber and you don't get any of those gaps. We are screwing this together. The ideal way is to use clamps. Here's one which I've done earlier. Exactly the same process, except we're not actually going to be drilling each piece. We've glued up each piece together, and then you just pop them into the clamps and squeeze it tight. Leave that to dry at least overnight. Don't rush it, don't put it out in the sun, let it dry naturally. Put that aside, allow that to dry. To save a bit of time, here's one I made earlier. That's what your final board's going to look like. It looks quite messy. So here comes all the hard work, and that's one of the reasons why I've chosen quite a rough grit sandpaper. We're going to go with an 80 first of all, just to get rid of all this excess, level out any uneven pieces, and then we'll start polishing it up with a 120 followed by the 240 grit sandpaper. I really love to use these grippy mats. It's like a foam rubber mat and makes sanding so much easier. Now keep sanding with the 80 grit sandpaper until you've got an even, smooth finish on the top. Then you're going to carry on with the rest of the board, and don't forget the underside as well as the sides as well. All across the surface till you've got a smooth, level surface. Then you can move on to the finer sandpaper. But if you want to add a really cool tool to your workshop and make your life so much easier, make use of a thickness planer. I'm going to pop this guy through the thickness planer and show you how simple and easy it is to do. Right, that planer really made life so much easier on this board. Really looks fantastic. Now it's time to put on the 240 grit sandpaper, and that's going to just make that surface even smoother and silky soft. Now the final step is to seal this timber. You need to seal it to protect it from all the juices, the oils that you're going to be getting from your food. You need to use a food grade mineral oil based oil which is designed for chopping blocks. Not linseed oil, not olive oil, and not cooking oil. Those will eventually turn rancid. I've got some stuff over here which I've sourced. This is really great stuff, but check what it does to transform this chopping board to something amazing. Just pour that in. And straight away you can see the color and the texture of the grain structure coming through, as well as the different styles of timber there as well. Check what it does to the end grain too. Really brings it to life. Allow that to dry for about 10 to 20 minutes, and then repeat the process for 2 to 3 coats. Remember, if you want to make your life even easier, get yourself some clamps. Even easier, get yourself a thickness planer. Really cool tool, and I promise you, once you start making chopping boards like this, I apologize now, it is very, very addictive. You can't stop. You're going to be giving them out to your friends and family non-stop. It's such an awesome, rewarding DIY. And that's the most important thing about a DIY. The reward that you get out of making something yourself. You've personalized yourself. It's handmade by you. Most important thing, give it a go. If you enjoyed this clip, like it, share it. You can also subscribe to our Builders Fan YouTube channel. There's a range of DIYs just like this, as well as product reviews for you to check out. Give it a go and get it done.